Hi, I'm Greg Scott, author of Bullseye Breach, a business book disguised as a thriller about how Russian criminals steal 40 million customer credit card numbers from a fictional retailer named Bullseye Stores, right under the noses of people who should have been more alert. I wanted to use fiction as a way to present truth better than the news. It's a time-honored tradition. But with the Equifax breach we all learned about in September 2017, well, now truth is following fiction. Again. But this time we need to do something about it. So here in part one, I'm going to lay out what's wrong with the credit reporting system and a couple tactics consumers can use to cope with it. And then in part two, I'll offer a systemic solution that everyone might hate at first, but you'll warm up to it after you think about it for a while, and eventually you'll love it. The Great Equifax Data Breach of 2017 compromised Social Security numbers and other private information about 143 million consumers. That's about half the U.S. population. The details are ugly. In March 2017, the Apache Foundation disclosed a security vulnerability with a component called struts and issued a patch. Equifax never applied the patch to one of its websites. So naturally, by May 2017, somebody was exploiting that struts vulnerability, and they roamed across the Equifax network for more than 2 months. At the end of July 2017, like I said, more than 2 months later, Equifax finally discovered the problem and shut down the attack. A couple days later, these guys sold around $1.8 million in Equifax stock. Now, Equifax PR people claim these guys didn't know about the breach when they sold their stock. Here's their titles. One of them is the Chief Financial Officer. Another one is President of Information Services. And another one is President of Consumer Information Services. You be the judge. Are these guys crooks or not? I think they're insider traders. And I think Equifax people must also believe American adults still believe in the tooth fairy. Anyway, on September 7, 2017, around 5 weeks later, Equifax finally told the world about the problem. It went downhill from there. Equifax set up a website, EquifaxSecurity2017.com, for people to check if their information was compromised. That site wants the last 6 social security number digits and a name, and then it claims to tell us whether or not our information's at risk. Doesn't seem to matter what name you feed it. Give it a valid social security number and it says you might be at risk. Give it a bogus number and it says you might not be at risk. Oh, how helpful. Either way, the next stop is a place to sign up for a free year of credit monitoring. Oh, joy. Except that it doesn't work right, or at least it didn't when I tried it, and it didn't work right for a few reporters when they tried it, so I'm not the only one who had problems. It gets worse. That website, EquifaxSecurity2017.com, looks like fish bait. That's fish with a PH. See my mini seminar about fishing for details. Anyway, instead of setting up a name off its corporate website, say breach2017.equifax.com or something like that no one could spoof, instead, Equifax decided to register this whole new suspicious-looking domain name and put all of its breach content right there. Enter a software engineer named Nick Sweeting. Nick registered his own domain name, securityequifax2017.com. See how we switched around security and Equifax? And then he built a demonstration fake website by downloading content from the real website, with his own editorial comments in there for good measure, so no one would mistake his site for the real Equifax breach site. Except some people from Equifax did. That's right. Somebody named Tim from Equifax directed consumers to Nick Sweeting's fake site instead of the real site. If Nick had set up a phishing site instead of his demonstration site, Equifax itself would have directed breach victims to a phishing site and possible identity theft after it already failed in its duty to protect our private information. Talk about rubbing salt in the wound. Incompetent is not a strong enough word. And there's more. The whole credit reporting industry has a sorry track record going back years. In 2013, Experian became an unwitting partner with an identity theft ring. Think about that. One of the big three companies claiming to help us guard against identity theft sold our information to identity thieves. When you freeze your credit, the CRAs give you a 4-digit PIN. Do I need to comment on how fast a computer can whip through 9,999 PIN combinations? But why bother? A few sharp people discovered that anyone can look up anyone else's Experian credit freeze PIN. I sure hope Experian fixed that. Here's another one. Talx, T-A-L-X, is an Equifax subsidiary that provides online payroll, HR, and tax services. From April 2016 and into March 2017, almost a year, these guys allowed crooks to reset customer employees' 4-digit PINs and steal W-2 tax data. That's right. If somebody stole your tax data, there's a good probability Equifax was part of it. This whole thing would be funny if the subject matter weren't so serious. How much more of this do we want to put up with? Let's summarize. Think about security as a 3-legged stool. We call it the security triad. The 3 legs are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Remember it with the letter CIA. Kind of fits, doesn't it? How do the credit reporting agencies or CRAs measure up? Well, they fail with confidentiality. Just look at all the recent data breaches. Integrity means the data is accurate and internally consistent. We won't even get into integrity in the context of ethics here. The reports I've seen say 1 in 5 credit reports are wrong. That's about a 20% failure rate, which might be a passing B in a high school test. But in an industry that claims to care about this stuff, I call it a fail. And availability? How come I can only look at my own credit report once a year? And why is that even a hassle? From where I sit, availability also needs improvement, and I call that a fail. Especially now that the big three CRAs are swamped with millions of credit freeze requests. Wonderful. The system is a mess. What do we do about it? A friend of mine and I were talking about this the other day, and she said, Greg, there really isn't anything we can do about this, right? Well, she has a point, but stay tuned for part 2. There are a couple tactical things we can do right now. One is sign up for free credit monitoring. Oh, joy. Every company that has a data breach offers free credit monitoring to victims because they don't know what else to do. Well, all right, the free credit monitoring might be worth a little bit more than what you pay for it. Let's say somebody steals your identity and charges up $1 zillion in your name. The creditors report it to the CRAs who operate the monitoring services, and the CRAs eventually tell you about it. It's already too late. The money's gone. And you're guilty until proven innocent because law enforcement's not going to help you. Dear Greg, you're screwed. Have a nice day. Well, at least you found out about it before the statements came in. Another one is freezing your credit. Brian Krebs suggested this 2 years ago, and I put a link to his post on the slide. Freezing your credit is good because nobody can borrow anything until you unfreeze it. Freezing your credit is bad because you can't borrow anything until you unfreeze it. It's a hassle to freeze, it's a hassle to unfreeze, and it might cost money, which I really don't like since I have to pour time and money into working around a problem this industry created, and I have to trust these guys to execute my wishes even after they've already violated my trust. And at least during the aftermath of the big Equifax breach, all the CRAs are swamped with freeze requests, so I might not even be able to request a freeze or an unfreeze. If we really want to fix this mess, we need to reform the system. And I'm going to pitch a radical idea that everyone will hate at first, but it'll grow on you. I'll do that in part 2. I need to leave you with one final warning. Buy your copy of Bullseye Breach today, but don't start reading until a Friday afternoon, because once you start, you won't be able to put it down, and this gives you the whole weekend to recover from jet lag after you're up all night reading. And if you like what you read, please leave a nice review on Amazon and all the other online review sites. Authors use these reviews to build credibility so we can keep on writing. And thanks for putting up with my amateur narration.